Today's lesson is interviewing for a university. Hi, everyone. I'm Mike.
Hi, I'm Kiki.
And here we are on day 2, actually, of our 4 dialogues interviewing for a university. In day 1, we had James, and he's being quizzed or interviewed by Professor Smith. And James has, I guess you could fairly say, a passion for the English language, English reading, English writing, all things to do with English literature. And I think he expressed that very well to the professor.
That's right. And usually when we are doing an interview, the interview will kind of be broken down into different parts.
Right.
So in yesterday's lesson, we learned about him. So he's making a self-introduction. You'll usually start off by introducing yourself. And then it gets into him talking more about some of the other things that he does, some interests that he does, and how he describes himself. Okay, So today we're going to move on to some other parts of an interview, like what he wants to do in university and what he expects in university life.
All right, so yesterday was kind of breaking the ice, getting James a little bit relaxed, talking about his hobbies. Now it's more the nuts and bolts of university life. So let's see how it goes by listening to the first part of today's lesson. 3. Choosing a major. Professor Smith moves on to ask James about his choice of major. So, what sparked your interest in majoring in English? Aside from my love of literature, I'm fascinated by the power of words to shape ideas and perspectives. For example, I recently learned that William Shakespeare introduced more than 1,700 words and phrases to the English language. Could you give me an example of an expression he coined? One example is the phrase heart of gold, which is used to describe someone with a kind and generous nature. I find details like that about the evolution of English incredibly interesting. So that's why majoring in English is so appealing to me.
大家好，我们来看第一部分中的单字 evolution， 它是名词，意思是演变、演进或是演化。例如 The evolution of the computer over the past 2 decades has been quite incredible. 电脑在过去20年间的发展颇为惊人。或者 Evolution has caused some animals to lose their tails. 演化使一些动物失去了它们的尾巴。另外，如果我们在这个字的字尾加上 ary， 就会变成形容词 evolutionary， 指的是演化的或是发展的。例如 Oscar is fascinated by the evolutionary history of birds. Oscar 对鸟类的演化史相当着迷。也可以说 The book describes the evolutionary development of the transportation industry over the last century. 这本书描述上个世纪间交通运输业的演变发展。
All right, we are back. So part 3, that's the third dialogue, but of course the first for today is, well, yeah, this is one of the biggest decisions a student will make as they transition from high school to university, choosing a major, basically choosing your central focus of study, the topic, the subject that you are most interested in, that you will finally, if all goes well, graduate with a degree in after your 4 years of university. What was your major, Kiki?
My major was in marketing.
Marketing. Very useful. Mine was not. It was anthropology with a
Wow.
minor in archaeology. And as you can tell, I am not Indiana Jones, but I still like the movies. So there you go. Choosing a major is more or less important. For some people, they know exactly what they want. For others, they're just interested in learning. Let's see what James's situation is. We begin with a sentence that tells us what's going on here. Professor Smith moves on to ask James about his choice of major. What do you want to study, James?
So, what sparked your interest in majoring in English?
I could have guessed that. After the interview yesterday, right? Yeah, of course he's going to major in English. He's passionate about English. He loves reading English. He's read a lot of English, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
So yes, that's his major. What are you majoring in? Or you could say, what sparked your interest in an English major?
Yeah.
You could also use it that way.
So again, we have this word sparked where we talked about yesterday. You know, what really got you interested in majoring in English? English. And he wants to know exactly why you're choosing English. Because some people, they might just choose English because they think, oh, it might be an easy major.
Right, I speak English, so I'll study English. Can't be hard.
Right, but actually, English majors, it's a tough major.
Yeah, you got to love writing because you'll be writing a lot.
Right. Okay, so when professors ask this, because they want to know that you're serious about coming to study my major.
Exactly.
We want to know why you're really choosing. Why should I accept you as one of my students?
Yeah, absolutely. And you won't just be reading your favorite books. You'll be reading some pretty old, difficult, challenging work. So there's a lot of reading, a lot of writing. I think James, though, he's up for the challenge. He says, aside from my love of literature, I'm fascinated by the power of words to shape ideas and perspectives. So we know he loves reading. And the second part of that answer also maybe speaks to his work as working on the student newspaper that he did in high school. He was writing in Chinese, but a newspaper is often about using the power of words to shape ideas and perspectives, giving opinions, writing about current situations in the world, explaining complicated issues to people in a way that makes it easy to understand. So he just likes using language as a tool of learning and understanding and getting to know the world better. And he has a good example here. For example, he says, I recently learned that William Shakespeare introduced more than 1,700 words and phrases to the English language. That is absolutely amazing. The word luggage. No one said the word luggage until William Shakespeare said, what do we call all those bags? That's luggage. That's just one of the words that I remember that he introduced. So there you go. Great writers can not only create great works that, move people and cause them to have fun and laughter and entertainment or tragedy, but they can also create new words. So that's an amazing thing.
So far, I think James is doing a really good job. I'm really impressed by him saying that he's fascinated by the power of words. Yeah, that's a good answer.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Professor Smith continues and asks him, could you give me an example of an expression he coined? So he wants to make sure that James isn't just throwing facts out there saying, oh, William Shakespeare introduced 1,700 words and phrases. He wants to know that he really knows his stuff. So he wants him to give him an example of an expression that he coined.
Okay.
So when you've coined something, you're usually saying that, oh, I invented this, or I'm the first person that used this word. I'm the first person to have done this. So usually when you say you have coined something, you're kind of saying that I'm the person that started to do this thing or to call this whatever this word is, and then everybody started using it after me.
Yeah. A lot of those words these days come from the internet, right? Like
Right.
Riz, I think, was the word of the year last year, and a situationship. These are new words that we didn't have 5 or 10 years ago, and people on the internet use them. It catches on. It kind of expresses an idea that we didn't have a perfect word for before. So if you coin a phrase or if an expression is coined, it's kind of created out of thin air, but it makes sense and people pick up on it, and then it becomes a common word. Well, he has a good expression here that Shakespeare coined that he thinks is very interesting. One example is the phrase heart of gold, which is used to describe someone with a kind and generous nature. So there you go. That's a pretty common expression. She's got a heart of gold. What a kind, wonderful person. She's an angel. She's really kind and nice to everyone. She'll never let you down, never tell you a lie, that kind of thing. Well, Shakespeare came up with that, and I think most of us, even if we don't know the meaning of the word, we probably understand the meaning of the word. It's also actually the title of a great song by Neil Young. So there you go. So a phrase, heart of gold. This also shows that James has thought about this. He hasn't just memorized some of these Shakespeare words, these Shakespearean terms. He's thought about them and what the meaning of them is. And as he says, it's used to describe someone with a kind and generous nature. I find details like that about the evolution of English incredibly interesting, so that's why majoring in English is so appealing to me. He's got a sort of a wholehearted and a holistic, we could say, like all-around appreciation of English in many different ways, including the evolution. The evolution of something is how it changes and grows and develops over time, right? The evolution of humans from apes, the evolution of language as different generations use it, the evolution of technology as newer and newer machines come in. This is happening over time. probably gradually over time, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but it's developing, it's changing over time. And we are running out of time, so let's finish up this first part of the dialogue, and then we'll continue after we listen to the second part right now.
4. Expectations for university life. Finally, Professor Smith asks James about his expectations for university life.
Lastly, beyond academics, what extracurricular activities or interests do you hope to pursue while you're at the university?
I'm keen on contributing to the university's literary magazine. I might also join a discussion group similar to the English club at my high school.
Sounds good. And can you share any personal or professional goals you set for yourself during your university experience?
I'm hoping to deepen my understanding of literature and become a stronger writer, both in Chinese and English. Professionally, I hope to find work as a translator or a journalist who can bridge the gap between different cultures.
That's very ambitious, James. I appreciate your enthusiasm.
第二部分介绍动词 pursue， 它的意思是从事或是追求、贯彻。例如 After college, Dave pursued a career in acting. Dave 在大学毕业后从事演戏事业。又或者是 Once Sarah decides to pursue a goal, nothing can stop her. 一旦 Sarah 决定追求一个目标，就没有事情能阻止她。另外 pursue 也有追捕或是追赶的意思，可以说The police officer spent many days pursuing the suspect. 警察花了好几天的时间追捕嫌犯。又或者说 The dog pursued the cat for miles. 那只狗追着那只猫跑了好几英里。接着是 journalist 这个单字，它是名词，意思是新闻记者或是新闻工作者。例如 Ben wants to become a journalist because he loves following current events. Ben 想成为一名记者，因为他喜欢追踪时事。再看一个例子 As a journalist, Harold has traveled to many different countries. 作为一名记者 Harold 去过许多不同的国家。在这边额外补充名词 journalism, Journalism, journalism 指的是新闻业或是新闻工作。举例来说 Carol began her career in journalism by working as a reporter at a local TV station. Carol 透过在当地电视台担任记者，开启了她的新闻生涯。又或者说 Some people believe that social media poses a threat to traditional journalism. 有些人相信社群媒体会对传统新闻产业造成威胁。再来看到 ambitious， 这个形容词指的是志向远大的或是有抱负的。例如 Kevin is extremely ambitious and aims to be in a management position within 5 years. Kevin 非常野心勃勃，目标在5年内升到管理职。或是 Chloe has always been an ambitious person, constantly setting new goals and working hard to achieve them. Chloe 一直是一位有抱负的人，她会不断设定新目标并努力实现它们。除此之外，将这个字的字尾 us 改成 n 就会变成名词 ambition， 表示野心或是抱负。例如 Lewis won't let anyone get in the way of his ambitions. Lewis 不会让任何人阻挡他的抱负。最后一个例子 Becoming a successful artist is my greatest ambition. 成为一名成功的艺术家是我最大的抱负。
All right, let's talk about our last part, the fourth dialogue, and it is expectations for university life, okay? So when we want to go to university, we also have to consider how our life is going to be when we get there. So it's not just about choosing the university that you want to go to, the best or most famous university, but what is life going to be like? Are you going to be studying all the time? Or are you also going to do some ECAs at university?
Or is it just one big party?
Right. Well, we should have a good balance of everything, right?
For sure.
So the professor wants to find out, a good student should have a well-balanced life. So he wants to find out, James, what he thinks about his university life. So our little sentence here is finally, so the last part of the interview, Finally, Professor Smith asks James about his expectations for university life. So what is he expecting? What does he think his university life might look like? So he says, lastly, beyond academics, what extracurricular activities or interests do you hope to pursue while you're at the university? So not only are you studying all the time, what other things outside of class are you interested in or do you hope to pursue while you're here? So what else do you want to do? Here we have the word pursue. So pursue is to chase or go after something. So what else are you going to try? You're not just staying in the library every day reading books, and maybe you can get involved with the newspaper at the university, but maybe you want to be something more well-rounded. Are you going to get into something else? So he wants to find out more about what James is thinking about.
That's right. He'll definitely be pursuing his major, of course. That's his top job. But yeah, there's lots of other things he can go after, do, try out. He says, I'm keen on contributing to the university's literary magazine. Again, a natural choice for James, as we know now. He's keen on this. He's enthusiastic about. He's eager to do it. He really wants to try to contribute to the school's university magazine or literary magazine. Contribute to is basically throw in a little bit of work into a larger effort. All right, so if you're working on a group project of any kind, you would want everyone to contribute something, right? So they're all doing a bit of work, putting it in. Maybe if you're paying for something expensive, buying a fancy gift for your friend for their birthday, everyone might throw in, 500 NT so that you have a bigger amount of money. It's not one person doing all the work. It's everyone sharing the work. So he wants to share in the work of the university's literary magazine. I'm sure they have many magazines at the university, some about sports, some about school life, school activities, things like that. This is the literary magazine to do with literature, with writing on a serious kind of level. I guess if we're saying something is literary, it's a bit more serious writing, not maybe a magazine or newspaper writing, but poetry, creative writing, little novels, short novels and short stories, stuff like that. So this isn't the school paper. This would be a little bit different from that, but he wants to definitely contribute to that. The literary magazine, the serious writing that it goes on, and the creative writing that comes from the students at the school. He says, I might also join a discussion group similar to the English club at my school. So, a lot of those things that he did, these ECAs that he did at high school, he wants to continue doing at the university, maybe on a slightly higher level, a slightly more intellectual level, but still kind of going for the same thing, developing ideas, developing community, meeting people, and bringing people with passion for a particular subject together.
So Professor Smith says, sounds good. And can you share any personal or professional goals you've set for yourself during your university experience? So while you're here, have you set any goals or any objectives that you want to achieve, things that you want to do that might be related to your personal life, your personal goals, or things that might help you in your work life when you are older or after university? So he wants to know more about that.
Interesting. He says, I'm hoping to deepen my understanding of literature and become a stronger writer. That will all happen through his pursuit of his English major, both in Chinese and in English. Interesting. So that might lead to, yes, another kind of way of working with language, and it seems to, in his next part of the answer. Professionally, I hope to find work as a translator or a journalist who can bridge the gap between different cultures. So that would be maybe a job. We know that from his use of the word professionally. Anything about a profession or professionally means relating to a job, something you do for work. And he hopes to find work as a translator or a journalist. A translator, someone who basically takes books from a certain language and rewrites them in another language. So he'll take the greatest bestsellers in America or in Britain and then write sort of the local Chinese version so that people in other parts of the world who don't speak the original language can enjoy them. And that could be a great job. Or a journalist. He'll work for a newspaper or a magazine or an online website or something, writing about the news, topical, current events, things like that. And that's what, of course, a journalist does. We usually use this for people who write the news, not for people who might be on television or the radio. That might be a reporter, but really it's kind of the same job. Journalists would probably just have to be a little bit better at explaining things using excellent, clear language, and James seems to be that kind of guy, and he can bridge the gap between different cultures because, of course, a lot of the misunderstandings in the world don't come about because people are really different. They come about because of small differences in culture and trouble understanding other languages. So there you go. James will be a bridge between different cultures. Sounds wonderful.
That's right. So Professor Smith says, that's very ambitious, James. I appreciate your enthusiasm. So he thinks what he wants to do is very good, especially if you're able to bridge the gap between cultures. And he thinks that it's very ambitious. When somebody's very ambitious, they have high hopes for themselves. They want to achieve a lot and not just ride through life the easy way. They really want to get things done, and they really have big hopes to achieve big things. Okay, so Professor Smith is very impressed by that.
Yeah, I am too. I think this sounds great. James is off to a good start on a very, very interesting future for himself. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. That's all the time we have today, I should say, but we do have time, of course, for our Chinese teacher. So let's go over to Hanny as she bridges gaps in cultures.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。在课文第一部分的对话里，当 Professor Smith 问 James 是什么激发了他对主修英文的兴趣，他就回答 Aside from my love of literature, I'm fascinated by the power of words to shape ideas and perspectives. 他说除了我对文学的热爱外，我对文字形塑想法和观点的力量深感着迷。我们先补充一下 fascinate 这个动词，它是表达使着迷、使迷住，就可以用 be fascinated by something 或者是 be fascinated with something 去表达着迷于某事物，深受什么的吸引。那另外文中它用到 aside from， 它是片语介系词，后面要接名词或动名词，那可以表达出两种语义。我们来看第一种语义，就是课文的用法，表达说除了什么以外还怎么样，这表示后面的人事物有包括在内，意思就跟 besides 或者是 in addition to 相同。例如 Aside from hiking, he also likes swimming. 除了健行之外，他还喜欢游泳。那第二个语义呢 Aside from 可以表达除了什么什么以外没有点点点，这表示后面的人事物不包括在内，意思会跟 except for 相同。例如 I enjoyed all the dishes aside from the salad. 除了那一道沙拉之外，所有的菜肴我都喜欢，所以就排除了那一道沙拉。那同样在课文第一部分的对话里 James 提到莎士比亚为英语创造了超过1700个单字和片语，并且有举例说明。那么 James 接着说他觉得这类关于英语演变的细节非常有趣，他是用 find 什么什么 interesting 来表达觉得什么有趣。好，那我们来介绍这个句型，就是 find加受词加上 to be 再加受词补语，那其中的 to be 可以省略。那这样句型是表达认为觉得某人或某事物怎么样怎么样，那 find 在这边是指认为觉得。受词补语呢常常会用名词或形容词来表达，那它前方的 to be 可以用也可以不用，所以呢我们常就会看到 find somebody or something 后面接一个形容词或名词的结构哦。举例来说 They found him to be a very decent man， 或是 They found him a very decent man， 他们觉得他是个很正直的人。再造一个例句是 The students found the story to be interesting， 或者是 The students found the story interesting， 学生们觉得这个故事很有趣。那补充一下，如果我们句型里面的受词是要用不定词 to be， 这时候并不会用 find to be 再加受词补语，而是会改用 it 来代替受词的位置，然后把不定词 to be 移到句尾，所以句型会是 find it 加受词补语，再加不定词 to be。举例来说 Matt found it hard to fit in at school. Matt 认为适应学校生活很困难。好，那么以上几点重点整理，我们回顾几个单字吧。
Evolution. The gradual evolution of her painting style reflected her growth as an artist. Pursue. Lydia has decided to pursue a career in medicine. Contribute. Due to illness, Regina won't be able to contribute to this month's issue. Literary. The library frequently hosts literary events such as readings by famous authors. Journalist. The journalist called the police department for an official statement on the murder investigation. Ambitious. Steve is quite ambitious and hopes to run a major business someday.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Mike.
I am Kiki.
See you next time.